Hello everyone, and warmly welcome to this very special hour that we have ahead of us. And warmly welcome to the Child10 Awards. My name is Sara Damberg and I'm the founder of Child10, and during this hour I will be your host. Our theme this year is Girls' Rights Have No Price. And in the coming hour together we will celebrate 10 brave organizations from all around Europe who fights every day to end commercial sexual exploitation of girls. We will hear some powerful stories and we will get insights and examples of how we can work to stop some of the worst imaginable forms of exploitations and abuse. Before this hour is over, we will also have had time to speak to some selected guests here in the studio, and we will also have some music from the brilliant artist Arne Brun. So make sure that you stay with us. But before we get started, I would like to say a few words about silence, or actually about the cruelty of silence. Martin Luther King once said that the great tragedy of our time is not the cruelty of the bad people, but the silence of the good people. In silence, the vulnerable get even more vulnerable, and silence always breeds exploitation and abuse. A few months ago, Child10 did a survey where we collected stories and insights from over 200 girls around the country. And all these girls has been exposed to commercial sexual exploitation. It was of course very painful to read all these stories that these girls told us. And even for me, who's been working with vulnerable children my whole life, this was different. Not only reading about the abuse that they have suffered in the first place, I would say the most difficult was to read about what happened after, when they turned to the authority, to the adult world, to get support or help, about how they were met by awkward silence, by people who just looked away, or even being accused to lying or told them that they should be ashamed. This was said and done by the ones who were supposed to help them, by the grown-ups that these girls put their trust in. And many of these girls said that they will never again dare to tell anyone what they have experienced. And so the abuse continues. And this is the silence of good people. The awarded members that we will meet today is an example of the opposite, of what happens when we are brave enough to speak up, when we are compassionate enough to listen, to ask these important questions, not turn away. During the show, you will get to learn how you can support the awarded members. But not only that, you can start thinking about how you can follow their lead in your everyday life, how you can speak up, how you can make sure that you always act, and how you can ask all these questions. And as you can see, I'm happy to be joined now here by our General Secretary of the Child10, Jakob Flad. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah.
The theme, as I said in the beginning for this year, is Girls' Rights Have No Price. Can you tell me what that actually means?
Well, Child10's vision is a world free from trafficking and exploitation of children. And this year, we want to focus in particular on the exploitation that happens all around us, all over Europe, every day. The most common form of child trafficking is commercial exploitation of children for sexual purposes. And according to the just recently released UNODC Trafficking in Person report, every third victim of trafficking is a child. And 2/3 of all child trafficking victims in high and middle income countries are victims of trafficking for sexual exploitation. And the vast majority of these children are girls. It is clear that trafficking of children is a gender-based crime, where girls are the majority of the victims and where men are the majority of the perpetrators. Among children, girls aged between 14 and 17 appears to be particularly vulnerable. And we know that this group is extremely vulnerable also due to deficient protection mechanisms in this age. For example, these girls can be advertised as adults. And also from a legal perspective, many are being blamed and they're also being shamed because they have reached the age of sexual consent, which is, in a context of child exploitation, totally irrelevant.
When you hear this, you really, really want to put the ones with a lot of power accountable for this. What is the EU and the membership states doing to protect these girls?
Well, you can say that our ambitions are there, but actions are far too poor, unfortunately. From a European perspective, just recently there was a release of the assessment of the implementation of the EU Anti-Trafficking Directive. And that clearly points out a systemic failure for EU countries to especially protect girls from sexual exploitation. And generally in the EU, I would say that states have failed extensively over all the sectors when it comes to coordination, when it comes to identification of victims, when it comes to access to protection, and also when it comes to tackle the impunity that we see for many of the perpetrators. And it's also fundamental to have a children's rights and a gender-sensitive approach when you work about this. And there is a lot of things to be done also when it comes to make children's rights and the gender perspective in all the legislations around Europe. I also want to underline that commercial sexual exploitation of girls is not only about trafficking from other parts of the world to Europe. We also see that domestic exploitation taking new forms through online exploitation and online recruitment in all parts of Europe. And I am happy that just a few weeks ago the CRC committee adopted a Comment 25 on children's rights in a digital context that puts the responsibility on the states to protect children from all forms of violence and exploitation, also online. And they particularly highlight online sexual exploitation.
We have also seen in recent years that commercial sexual exploitation is taking new forms. Can you say something about what these new digital platforms and these new sort of terms of sugar dating means for the work that we do within Child10 and also for the member organizations?
Terms as sugar dating are used to normalize exploitation. And new platforms like OnlyFans, that we heard a lot about, normalizes commercialization of girls' bodies. And in this development, we need to remind ourselves and others that regardless of what label we are using, we can never accept that men take the right to abuse and exploit girls, disregarding the means. And the trafficking definition, when we talk about child trafficking, is crystal clear, that consent from someone below the age of 18 doesn't take away any responsibility for the perpetrator, from the trafficker, from the procurer, or the buyer. The child is always a victim, and the abuser is always a perpetrator. And this is what the awarded members that we will meet today fight against every day. And this is a fight that we all have to join and follow their lead.
I feel happy that we have the awarded members because everything that you share with us is heavy information. It's hard to grasp. Thank you very much, Jacob. Dear all, as we gather here today to celebrate the 10 awarded members, it is the end of a long and extensive selection process. This year, over 90 organizations and individuals were nominated. Luckily, we have a number of renowned experts to help us to make the final selection. And now, in the studio here, I have one of these experts with me. So welcome, Britta Holmberg. First of all, Child10 has been I would say, kind of the front runner in the work against commercial sexual exploitation of children. And I know that you've been working with these issues for over 20 years. Can you say something about what you have seen? I mean, how has the situation changed during this long period of time? It's a big question.
It is a very big question.
It's 2 decades.
But actually, I would like to start with saying that a lot has happened. And I think that's really important to understand that a lot of positive things has happened. Because often when we speak about this, we speak about the problem growing and growing, and we don't know how big it is, and it gets worse and worse. But actually a lot of things has happened. And the starting point for that was the first World Congress Against Sexual Exploitation of Children. Her Majesty Queen Sylvia was one of the speakers, and after that Congress, I think what happened is that the world could not anymore say that we don't know.
Yeah.
So we kind of stopped closing our eyes, and maybe with big words, but I would say that the world started to act. And it's not enough, but a lot has happened. We have better legislation, we have international conventions, we have a lot more resources being invested in law enforcement and in support to victims. We have a much better understanding for the problem, and I think we don't see the problem as black and white anymore. We see more of the complexity, and we see that also boys can be exploited, for example. We understand that there are some risk groups that we did not speak about 20 years ago, LGBTQ children with special needs, for example, the links to migration.
What do you look for when you want to select an awardee?
I was looking for both a combination with organization that had the holistic approach to this, and a combination of awardees with a kind of specialization on this specific group, because I think that together they can do something really great. I was also looking for brave organizations that are taking their role as watchdog seriously, that really looking at what are the governments not doing to kind of push the governments to take their responsibility, but also organizations that combine kind of genuine commitment with some kind of professionality, even though some of these are really small, but it can still be professional. I think these grassroots organizations, they have such a crucial role. They're often the ones that maybe are the first one that meet people that have been sexually exploited. So they may be the first point of contact for some kind of support.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the goals also, to sort of gather grassroots together and create sort of an action force with power individuals and organizations working together. But what would you say, what kind of role do the grassroots organizations play, you think, in this work?
Well, I think that one is absolutely the watchdog. I mean, the governments are doing things, but not enough, obviously, because this situation is continuing. But also to fill some of the gaps and also offer some of the support that has to be kind of the personal, from a personal commitment and kind of this being the
like human connection. Human connection.
Being the kind of providing the humanity in this, and I think it is best done in a civil society setting. Yeah. But I think also the organizations that are kind of testing new ways of addressing this problem. So when I was looking at searching for the favorite awardees, I was also looking for those who had a kind of clear idea for what kind of change they want to push for and how they wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think it needs also new kind of methods and innovations, because that's also how the human traffickers are working.
Exactly.
So we need sort of run before them.
Exactly. So that is the role of civil society, to be kind of quick and nimble and develop new ways of working. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for supporting us in that, and also thank you very much for joining me here in the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you, Britta. Now the time has come for us to meet our first Child10 awarded members of 2021. On this map you can see how the organizations that will be awarded are spread throughout Europe. To start today's journey and meet our first awarded members, we will now go to Italy and Albania.
Associazione Iroko is a non-profit that operates in Italy and in Nigeria. We provide services to victims of trafficking and of sexual exploitation in both countries, to survivors of sex trafficking and of sexual exploitation in both countries, and to potential victims of trafficking in Nigeria. Our work also involves advocacy both at national and international level, to ensure that appropriate policies are in place so that we in our work are able to provide such support without hindrance. In Italy, we provide short-term shelters to survivors of trafficking, food, medical support, mental health support for the trauma that the survivors have suffered, to ensure that they are able to overcome most of the trauma that they have suffered. We also ensure that their children do not become targets for the criminal groups that traffic them into Europe. We provide support in Nigeria to indigent families whose children, especially the girl child, are at highest risk of trafficking by the exploiters who are always on the lookout to recruit them. We provide scholarships to such young girls to ensure that even if their mothers are not there or their parents cannot support their educational fees, that we are able to some extent to support it. The recognition by Child10 will ensure that we'll be able to expand the impact of our work to reach more survivors in Italy and also to reach more vulnerable women and girls in Nigeria. We very much look forward to collaborating with Child10 to expand our work and to ensure that our advocacy has the kind of impact that we hope to achieve. Thank you very much.
Trafficking in human beings remains a serious concern for Albanian society. Albania is an origin and destination country for trafficking of children, women, girls, men and boys for the purpose of sexual exploitation, begging and forced labor. According to the reports of National Anti-Trafficking Coordinator Office, during 2017-2019, 303 victims and potential victims of trafficking are identified and assisted, and 63% of them are children. Vatra Center, a pioneer organization in anti-trafficking in Albania, has been created in 1999 and in 2001 has established the first shelter for rehabilitation and reintegration of victims of human trafficking and their children. Since the beginning of its work in anti-trafficking, Vatra has supported 2,541 victims of human trafficking, and 65% of them were minors. We provide shelter, medical, psychological, legal and education assistance, and also services for their social and economical empowerment. Vatra also is focused on the prevention of human trafficking through awareness-raising activities in rural and urban areas, with youth, with students and with community, capacity building for local anti-trafficking institutions and other NGOs is another priority of Vatra's work. From 1999, more than 35,000 people have participated and benefited from awareness-raising and capacity-building activities. Vatra's work since 2013 is focused on identification of victims of human trafficking and potential victims of human trafficking through outreach work of mobile teams. 70% of the cases identified and referred to services providers during these 2 last years were children. In 2018, Vatra has established a legal clinic where we provide legal and psychological support for victims of human trafficking and gender-based violence, contribution for the improvement of the national legislation and policies remain one of priorities of VATRA. All the activities and services are provided thanks to the great support and collaboration of the local and central institutions, national and international organizations and donors. We would like to thank Child10 for this award, which motivates us to continue with dedication of our work in the protection of victims of human trafficking and especially children.
Your Majesty, awarded members of 2021 Human Rights Defenders, ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by thanking all of you for your engagement for human rights, gender equality, and against human trafficking and sexual exploitation. Human trafficking and sexual exploitation are heinous crimes against individuals, against our societies, and gender inequality is in many ways the fertilizer, the very reason why so many women and children are being trafficked, the reason why many women and children are being sexually exploited all over the world. We need to do everything in our power to prevent and combat human trafficking and sexual exploitation. Enhancing gender equality and arresting the traffickers are two very important measures, but we need to do a lot more, including giving help and shelter to those who have been victimized. I use the word we intentionally because I know that governments and authorities never will be successful in combating human trafficking and sexual exploitation on their own. No, as in most all other areas, collaboration with other governments, with international organizations, and with civil society is key. I can proudly say that safeguarding and strengthening human rights, combating human trafficking for sexual exploitation, and enhancing gender equality are all very important pillars in Sweden's feminist foreign policy and in our international development cooperation policy, as is working together with civil society. Let me very briefly give you a few examples regarding the Swedish government's feminist foreign policy priorities. The policy is a response to the discrimination and systematic subordination that still characterize everyday life for countless women and girls all over the world. Feminist foreign policy is an agenda for change to strengthen the rights, representation, and resources of all women and girls. This year, Sweden is chair of the OSCE, and some of our core priorities during our chairpersonship are to enhance democracy, human rights, and gender equality. We also work closely with the OSCE against human trafficking, with a special focus on human trafficking for sexual exploitation of women and children. I also want to mention the Swedish government's foreign policy drive against human trafficking for sexual exploitation. In 2019, we made an agreement with Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs of France to work side by side internationally against human trafficking for sexual exploitation. Our overarching goal for this collaboration is a world free from prostitution and sexual exploitation. I finally want to mention that Sweden appointed a special envoy for combating human trafficking in 2016. This function has proven very important for advancing international collaboration against human trafficking, so important that we now have decided to add an even stronger focus on sexual exploitation of children to this function. Dear awarded members and human rights defenders, to conclude, Sweden really appreciates the important work you are doing, and I invite all of you who are active in other countries to contact the Swedish Embassy in your country and introduce yourself and your organization. Like I said, collaboration is key. It is only through collaboration that we can prevent and stop human trafficking and help the victims. Once again, congratulations to all of you who have been awarded today, and thank you, Child10, for the important work you are doing. Thank you.
I am very happy to say that the founder of our next awarded members organization is actually here with me. Welcome, Paulina.
Thank you.
Paulina, you are the founder of Novahuset in Sweden, and you have also written a book about your own experience as a survivor of trafficking and sexual exploitation. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show, Child10 did a survey a couple of months ago where we talked to a lot of victims. And what we saw that was many girls that are exposed, they never dares to tell anyone about it because they are so afraid of being disbelieved or stigmatized. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do. Both from my own story, but also from the work in the Novahuset. It's a lot of shame and guilt. As a victim, you test the person you meet. If they can ask, if they dare to sit and hear you, and if they can handle the truth. So you have one chance, we say often, because it's very important the first meeting. The trust you got to have there.
Mm. I know also that Novahuset is doing outreach activities to find girls who are at risk, both online and also out on the streets. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
We work on festivals and also in weekends in town with the police. But mainly we work at Instagram, Snapchat, mail and chat. And also we work in schools with prevention. It's my colleague Kajsa who's out with Moa and talk to young people, children, and the parents and school staff.
What role would you say that the internet and the new sort of social media platforms plays when it comes to commercial sexual exploitations? And what can we do to find and prevent exploitation on these platforms?
We must have the knowledge for it and laws who are updated. And we must talk to children when they are young about their body and my body and rights they have. So we must and see what world they are in. Internet is their whole life, and we must step up, we adults, and talk to our children.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, first of all, I'm very impressed with you, impressed with your strength. I mean, I know that you are out every week talking about your own experience. How do you do that? I mean, where do you find the strength to continue again and again and again, sort of share your own experience and your own story?
I think it's easy for me because I have to do it. It's my call. I have to do something about it. And I want to show everyone that it's okay to feel sad sometimes, and you can feel better. You can have a relationship, you can have sex again, you can be whatever you want to.
Thank you very much, and also again congratulations to be one of the Child10 awardees 2021.
Thanks.
Astra is an NGO that provides direct support to victims of human trafficking for more than 20 years, and we're the first actor in Serbia to raise this issue. Serbia is the country of origin, transit, and destination of trafficking victims. The most prevalent form of exploitation is sexual exploitation, followed by labor and multiple exploitation, but we face more and more cases of forced criminality and forced marriage. In Serbia, there is no unified statistics on total number of trafficking victims, but according to 2019 state statistics, 64% of all identified trafficking victims for this year were children, 60% of whom were sexually exploited. This is a very worrisome development that our organization tries to put an end to. We at Astra focus on holistically on the issue of human trafficking. We deal with all forms of exploitation and provide assistance to all categories of survivors, women, children, and men. But the fact is that 80% of our beneficiaries are women and children. We work simultaneously on providing direct assistance, on education, raising public awareness, on advocacy, research, and networking. But the core of our work is Astra SOS Helpline, the only SOS helpline for victims of trafficking in Serbia. We operate it since 2002. The line is free of charge and it's available 24/7. Over the last 20 years, over this line, we have received more than 46,500 calls, and we have assisted and identified more than 542 trafficking victims, 30% of whom are children. We, through our direct assistance program, we provide counseling and psychological support to victims, legal, medical, emergency assistance. We provide safe accommodation and also support in the reintegration process. We also have a mobile team that visits our beneficiaries directly, aids them, and only last year we had more than 100 field actions. All the support services we provide are even more important in the context of child victims, since in Serbia there are no specialized support victims for children victims of trafficking. To conclude, all of us at Astra, we're very honored to be joining Child10 awarded members, and we're all looking forward to work with you in the future on providing individualized support to children victims of trafficking and to put an end to this practice altogether.
My name is Gabriella Kärnekull-Wolf. I am the founder of an organization called Inte din hora, which translates into something like Not Your Whore. We are a Swedish network with over 100 members who all have experienced commercial sexual exploitation. By educational, political, and supportive measures, we work for a society where no girl, woman, child, or adult has to go through the exploitation that we have gone through. Globally, I know that most children who are sexually exploited are victims of human trafficking. They have been kidnapped or manipulated by traffickers and then abused by other men. Some of our members have the same experience, but what is quite common in Sweden is that children are abused by punters without being exploited by a middleman. That is what happened to me. I was 12 years old when I was subjected to grooming online. It happened in normal chat rooms where all children my age would hang out. They started with giving me attention and affirmation and slowly introducing a sexual language. They would ask me to send pictures of myself in my underwear. I would say no, and they would ask, why not? All girls your age post pictures on Instagram of themselves in a bikini. Sending a picture to me in your underwear isn't any worse. By the age of 13, I would be invited to live stream in chat rooms with hundreds of pedophiles, instructing me to penetrate myself with different objects. If I had been asked to do that a year earlier, when I was 12, I would have been scared and I would have said no. But at the time, it didn't feel any worse than sending a picture of myself in my underwear. By slowly introducing more and more advanced sexual acts, they were able to change my view of what was normal and okay and what wasn't. When I was 15, the normalization of the sexual abuse had gone even further, and I started to meet up with a few of the men that I was in contact with. They subjected me to severe, violent sexual abuse in exchange for money, alcohol, cigarettes, or a taxi. Eventually, I came in contact with the child psychiatry and the social services. They saw the abuse and exploitation that I went through as a form of self-harm. To treat my sexual self-harm, they analyzed which thoughts and feelings that made me subject myself to these situations. I learned strategies to cope with my anxiety in more constructive ways, such as eating Tabasco or taking a cold shower. But nothing worked. I assumed that something was wrong with me. Why else would the help I was given go without any result? Today, I see clearly that the fault wasn't within me, but within the system that was supposed to help, support, and protect me. They said that I had problems with sexual self-harm, but that isn't the right word for it. I wasn't the one harming me, others were. It wasn't sexual self-harm, it was sexual abuse. The question isn't what I did to subject myself to these situations. The question is what the men that abused me did. I wish that no child has their abuse described as a consequence of a fault within themselves. I wish that all children who have the courage and the strength to speak of their abuse have their abusers reported rather than having to eat Tabasco, take a cold shower, and being sent off to continued abuse. The view of commercial sexual exploitation as a form of self-harm may be a national problem, but the systematic victim blaming, that is a global problem, and it needs to change.
Our team is extremely honored and privileged to have become one of 10 Child10 awarded members for 2021. At the same time, we are proud to know that our engagement on protection of children from trafficking and exploitation has been noticed at the global level. Since 2010, Novi Put has been working on combating of child trafficking in Bosnia and Herzegovina through awareness raising, prevention and education, media campaigns, lobbying and advocacy. Bosnia and Herzegovina has been primarily identified as country of origin of victims of human trafficking, and many of them are minors. Bosnian children are subjected to forced begging, sex trafficking, commission of crimes, and domestic servitude in forced marriages, both in the country and abroad. Due to insufficient efforts invested by the government, Bosnia and Herzegovina has been downgraded to Tier 2 watch list of the United States State Department Trafficking in Persons report for the third consecutive year. Novi Put will continue with investing all our efforts in tackling the human trafficking issue, and this award will provide extra motivation to our further work on combating the issue.
Welcome back, Jakob. How do you feel so far?
Well, to be honest, there is a lot of mixed feelings going around inside me right now. Mm-hmm. I feel frustration to listen to the organizations. I feel frustration over the lack of responsibility from adults around these children that I meet, and also over the challenging context that many of these organizations are working within. But at the same time, I'm so happy that we are here today and that we are able to announce these excellent organizations. And I feel empowered also by the incredible impact, commitment and engagement shown by these organizations from all parts of Europe that all are dedicated to make a difference for these children.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. A lot has happened with Child10 in the last 18 months since you stepped in as the Secretary General. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about what have happened the last year and how that has been for you.
Well, it's been a very intense year, I must say. For us as an organization, we have grown quite a bit in the last 2 years, which means that we also can intensify our work and our support to the organizations that are now selected as awarded members. And one important focus for us in the past year, and one that we will continue to focusing on, is increasing public awareness and do advocacy about commercial sexual exploitation and its victims. And this to create a stronger voice for the organizations that we collaborate with, and to be able to jointly do even more impact together.
That's really good. But can you say something what that mean in practice?
Well, it means that we so far have spent a lot of time talking to politicians and decision makers about changes that needs to be made. We have published a number of reports and campaigns during the last year to put a spotlight on the issue of exploitation of children. And this is also something that we will continue to explore together with the awarded members in the upcoming year, to work together with them to find gaps in the protection system, to find policies that needs to be even better, and to strengthen the voice from the grassroots movement and from the survivors themselves into the decision-making process.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Many girls suffer from sexual exploitation in Latvia. How many? We don't know exact numbers because we can identify only around a couple of victims per year. But we believe that it is only top of the iceberg, and the real statistics does not show the real numbers. Many women who turn to Marta for help tell that they were involved in sexual exploitation at an early age, being teenagers. It shows that the problem is really complicated and that our institutions are not able to identify minor victims of sexual exploitation. Marta Center educates specialists, decision makers and youth about the problems of violence, human trafficking and gender inequality. We provide assistance for victims of human trafficking. It consists of specialists' help like social workers, psychologists, legal advisors, medical assistance, shelters, transportation, and first necessity things. Marta Center advocates for girls and women, and we already managed to accomplish several major impacts and changes in Latvian legislation. We do see impact of our work in many cases, in changes of someone's lives, in policies and laws, and many more. For example, since the previous July, prostituted persons are not anymore criminalized in Latvia. Marta Center's team strives for the world where men and women, boys and girls live in safety and equality.
For more than 10 years we have worked with young people in prostitution and trafficking. Our target group is young people up to the age of 25 and an absolute majority are girls and young women. Here at the Ellen Center we offer help, advice and therapy through our national chat helpline and also at our Help and Trauma Center in Stockholm. We also offer legal advice through the collaboration of our lawyers and educate professionals on the issue of young people in sexual exploitation. All our work is based on our experience of helping and supporting young people and of their experiences shared with us. We are also strong advocates for the Swedish model or the so-called equality model that focuses on punishing the sex buyer but never the ones in prostitution or trafficking. We also advocate for policies based around the principles of protection, support and exit options for all prostituted persons, no impunity for traffickers, pimps or sex buyers, criminalization of the purchase of all sexual acts, training of professionals, preventive measures and education of young people. In Sweden, we also see an urgent need for better help and support systems, the right to damages or economic compensation, and the right to victim status. The motive behind the Swedish legislation is equality. The system of prostitution is a violation of human rights and a fundamental obstacle to gender equality. We view prostitution as a form of violence, and especially a form of men's violence against women. There is an undeniable link between prostitution and trafficking, and ending the demand from men who want to exploit the bodies of especially girls, children and women is essential in combating this, together with holding states accountable under international law such as the Article 6 of the CEDAW Convention and the Palermo Protocol. This is our work, and these are our core values. And all that we do strives towards the goal of a gender-equal society free from all sexual exploitation.
Now we are honored to be joined by an amazing musician. She joined us last year and she is back again. So please welcome very talented and brilliant Anne Brun.
Hello everyone, this is Anne Brun. I'm proud to once again be a part of the award show for Child10, and I want to congratulate all the winners for their magnificent work. I'm going to perform one of my songs called Closer in an empty concert hall in my hometown, Molde in Norway.
When you're in your darkest hour, you think you'll never recover. Riding a constant spiral down, you think you can't dodge this one, but you'll be fine, I know. You'll be climbing higher. This is how you grow. This is how you grow closer. Closer. In the wide scope of loneliness, try to fill that space. Stretch out your arms, scratch the walls with your fingernails, so you can hear the sound of togetherness. Then you'll be fine, and you will feel closer. Closer. Don't you wait for it to stop. Don't let your voltage drop. 'Cause you'll be fine, I know. You'll be climbing higher. This is how you grow. This is how you grow closer. Closer.
Wow, thank you very much, Arne Brun. That was amazing. Now I am honored to introduce our next new awarded member, Ioana Bayer. She is the director of eLiberare from Romania. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here and that eLiberare is one of our 2021 awarded members. I know that you have a unique collaborative approach. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that means?
Hi everyone, and thank you so much. It's such an honor to be a part of the 2021 awardees. Our approach is very simple. Actually, we realized that we cannot do something about child trafficking and human trafficking in general on our own. If we do not create interest for everyone to address this issue, then we're not going to be able to have the impact that we desire. So whether it's the educational system, the judicial system, the general public, we try to create incentives for people to be involved and to care about this issue. Therefore, we create resources and we try to engage with as many sectors as we can in order to bring the subject of human trafficking and child trafficking in mainstream.
What do you feel has been the main challenges for your organization in recent times?
I think challenges have looked very differently this past year, right? The fact that nobody was anticipating a world pandemic is definitely something that has forced us to adapt and rethink our model. But in general, I think addressing human trafficking is difficult because there are certain mindsets and frameworks that you're trying to change. In Romania, unfortunately, one of the main source countries of victims of human trafficking in Europe, we still do a lot of victim blaming. We still put a lot of pressure on the persons who are caught in this organized crime, whether they're children or women or vulnerable populations. We look at them and point the finger towards them. We know that changing mindsets is very, very difficult. Therefore, this is a constant battle, and we look at it on the long term, trying to shift those things and all the preconceptions that go against us.
I'm thinking about our viewers here. I know that many probably want to help and contribute to your work. What is the most important things that we can do to support you?
I think having the right information about the subject and talking about the subject in the right way is the first step. We actually have 10 points that we call our call to action points that we give people. When you first hear about human trafficking, it's very overwhelming. And especially when we talk about the fact that, in Romania, almost half of the identified victims are children. This is a subject that's really, really heavy. So one, find out more about the issue. Find out more about what it looks like in your community. What are the specificities? Then obviously, as NGOs, we work with people. We need volunteers, we need supporters, we need sponsors, we need ambassadors of the cause. So find those NGOs that are able to allow you to get involved within your space. And even internationally, I think the pandemic taught us that we can get involved in pretty much any corner of the world if we want to. Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, make sure you keep your eyes open and make sure that when you see something that makes you feel uneasy, that is suspicious, that you think could be hiding exploitation or something wrong, please announce that to your authorities. Get informed whether there's a helpline that you can call, but don't look away. Don't turn your eyes away, because you could be the difference between somebody being in slavery or somebody being free.
Yeah, really good advice and good recommendations for all of us to act on. And thank you very much for joining me here. And once again, congratulations. And I look so much forward to continue to work with you during the upcoming years.
Thank you.
Before we proceed, I would like to ask you for help. One very concrete way to support our work and our awardees' work is to spread the word and get more people to hear their stories. So before we go on, I would ask you to please share this show in your own network. And also if you have missed part, maybe of the beginning, or you want to see it all again, you can find the whole show at our website at child10.org.
I'm the founder of Footprints of Freedom, a survivor-led organization that works to break the cycle of human trafficking by empowering survivors to take the front line in the fight against human trafficking. I work as a consultant in combating human trafficking. I advocate for victim rights, survivor inclusion, and engagement. Here in the Netherlands, underage girls are lured into sex trafficking online sexual exploitation by lover boys. And children in refugee camps are still very vulnerable to human trafficking, because they continue to disappear from refugee camps without a trace. But because of the hidden nature of human trafficking, a lot of victims are not identified. For this reason, awareness raising is very vital. As a survivor, my freedom is worthless when millions of children, women and girls are still under bondage, consisting of 71% of the general trafficked population in the world. For this reason, I use my personal experience to lead victims and survivors out of exploitation and support them in their healing journey, as well as working alongside other survivors, NGOs, government institutions, and academic institutions to achieve a sustainable response to human trafficking. I can affirm to you that an empowered survivor makes traffickers vulnerable, and it takes one survivor story to change someone else's. When a survivor is supported, they can impact and they can make a difference.
Welcome back, everyone. The time has now come to meet our 10th and our final awarded member of the day. And I am delighted to introduce an international youth movement working to raise awareness about human trafficking among young people. Light Up International operates in Austria, Germany and Norway. And I am pleased to have representatives from all 3 countries here with me today. Welcome, all of you, and also welcome to the 2021 awarded members of Child10. Karina, you are the founder and chair of the Light Up movement in Germany, and also the main representative of the Light Up International. What would you say is Light Up International's main goal and approach?
Light Up's vision is a world where every person lives free from human trafficking and exploitation, because people are priceless. We really believe in a world in which a life and freedom in equality does not remain a privilege for just a few people, but actually becomes a reality for everybody. As youth movement, we light up the reality of human trafficking to, on the one side, end the demand for forced labor and also sexual exploitation, but also to prevent young people from being exploited in our own countries, but also worldwide. We address, therefore, the structural causes of human trafficking rooted in global injustice and inequality. But we do not only inform and educate young people about the mentioned topics, but also encourage and enable youth to become active themselves in their own community and in their environments. We believe that the unique voices and perspectives, but also the attitudes and actions of youth are one key aspect when it comes to fight injustices like human trafficking and exploitation. And this is why we actually empower and mobilize young people to rise for a lasting and positive change and provide a platform for their ideas, talents, and skills. Light Up shares knowledge through workshops and social media, but also participates in public debates and also enables young people to start local teams, events, and creative projects.
Wow, that's so great. And I totally agree. I mean, as a youth movement, you represent an important perspective. And Jedida, you are the founder and the chair of Light Up Austria. What do you think is the main added value of your unique perspective?
I think it's this approach of having a youth movement. So our approach is to empower young people and to really give them a stage to fulfill their own ideas on how to tackle human trafficking. We realized that it's not only the job of politicians or social workers. We realized that young people are eager to really step up and bring in their own ideas. And I think that's a very unique angle with Light Up. And I can just give a few examples of like projects that we did with youth. For example, we did a lot in the part of music. We had music against trafficking, where people started to do charity concerts. Light Up Germany did a musical project called Hooked, where they were raising awareness against the lover boy scheme. We also had a photo project in Vienna that was actually shown in the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Wien, in Vienna, where they showed pictures of people being trafficked in Romania. Light Up Norway, for example, developed a board game against trafficking that young people could use to get informed. Or we do sports events that we use against trafficking. So yeah, there are different approaches. Also, we use social media a lot. So I think that's our unique way to show that young people can do something against trafficking.
Yeah. I mean, you do operate in different European countries. And Benedicte, you are the chair of Light Up in Norway. What is the strength of collaborating between each other, you would say?
One of the main strengths of working together is that when we stand together, our work has a broader sustainable impact than it would if we only existed in one country. And human trafficking and sexual exploitation are global issues that cannot be solved by one country alone. So international cooperation is therefore greatly valued. Also, collaborating allows us to learn from each other and benefit from the other country's knowledge and competence based on our different perspectives. So exchange of knowledge about this topic provides us with a holistic understanding of exploitation and how it is expressed. Also, knowledge about young people who are exploited, or even how young people contribute to maintaining a demand for exploitation. So we find it incredibly valuable to exchange experiences and talk about challenges in each country, regardless of the context in which the sex industry is located.
What is the attitude among the young people that you meet and work with? And what would you say is the main message towards them?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. We realize a lot that actually young people are most of the time not really aware of the issue at all, and that also when it comes to, for example, the Loverboy scam, they have never heard of it before. I just had an online seminar with young people, and out of 25 young people, only 2 have ever heard about that issue. So for us, it is so important to really talk with them about it and to also make aware about it. And for us, it's super important to also, as I have said before a little bit, to that the message is that your action and your voice really matters. And we also have that slogan, you're never too young to make a change or to change the world.
Thank you very much, all 3 of you. I'm looking so much forward to continue to work with you the upcoming years. And again, congratulations to being one of our awarded members this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are nearing the end of today's show. But before we are done, we have a very renowned guest coming up. So please stay tuned. And I would also like to talk a little bit about what's going to happen after this event. So welcome back, Jacob.
Thank you.
Can you explain a little bit what's going to happen with the awarded members after this event?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is that they will all receive a financial grant. And we are very happy and honored to have Her Majesty the Queen Silvia's Foundation Care About the Children as the main partner of Child10, who also has generously donated a financial grant to the organizations.
Great.
And beside of that, we are also going to work with an extensive support program together with our partner Applied Value, among others, to do individual support to each organization. So we're going to work with needs assessment and problem solving and targeting specific things in their organizations that we can work with along the year to help scaling their work and increasing their impact. We will also work together as a group of 10 organizations jointly, mainly focusing on problem solving, sharing best practices, and also work with joint advocacy towards decision makers on a national and on a regional level to make sure that the voices of these children and the voices of these awarded members that we have met today are the voices that becomes the foundation of the policy making and the legislation in Europe, in the EU, and also in the countries.
Wow, a real action force fighting against child trafficking. That's powerful. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Susanne Karlsson. I'm Managing Director for Her Majesty Queen Silvia's Foundation Care About the Children. We all wish that Her Majesty could be here personally today, but unfortunately she recently had an accident and injured her wrist, but is now in good recovery. Instead, Her Majesty sends her greeting to share with all of you awarded members of Child10. The Queen's Foundation Care About the Children support well-defined projects with major focuses like to fight child abuse, to support children living in conflict and war zones, and in overall empower children with their human rights, to believe in themselves and growing up as responsible and safe individuals. At this very moment, there are children being sexually exploited and abused in all countries in Europe and around the world. There are children alone and invisible without anyone to trust or to turn to. There are children desperately searching for protection, but instead being fueled with guilt and shame. It is for these children that we are gathered here today from all parts of Europe. Statistics show that in Europe, sexual exploitation is the most widespread form of human trafficking, and every third victim of trafficking is a child. Child trafficking and exploitation must be on top of the global agenda in order for us to work together. No country, no community is free from the exploitation of children. We need to support each other and learn from each other in order to prevent trafficking and other forms of commercial sexual exploitation of children. The Queen's Foundation is, since a year back, a major partner with Child10, and we are working closely together in order to identify and give support to strong and talented organizations that fight sexual exploitation of children. And I just want to finish by expressing our congratulations to the selected organizations awarded and announced here today for becoming a Child10 awarded member. Organizations like yours working directly with these children, either in person or online, are essential to ensure a safe environment for children. And we very much look forward to following your work. Good luck and thank you.
Dear all, we have come to an end of this year Child10 Award, and I want to thank you all who have made this session possible. The Child10 team, the production crew here in the studio, our guests, and of course our 10 new awarded members. Last but not least, I want to thank you all who has followed us during this hour. I mean, from your computer, from your phone, from any device, wherever you are. And although we couldn't meet in person this year, I hope that you feel the same way as I do, that we are still together in this, that we stand together in the fight against child trafficking. The 10 organizations that you have met here today will lead the way in the fight against child trafficking. But if we are here to win this fight, we need to join them. We need to show them that they are not alone in this work. And what more can we do in a more concrete way to support our work?
Exactly as you said, Sarah, we need to join forces, every one of us, in this fight against trafficking and exploitation. And one thing that you can do already is to support your local organization, support the awarded members and their work in their countries. Financially, you can support the organizations directly, or you can reach out to us at Child10 and we help you to disseminate your contribution. But I also want you to think about your own expertise and your own skills and your own passion. How can they be used in this fight? How can they be used to spread awareness? How can they be used to do advocacy? How can they be used to support the organizations to scale their impact, to become sustainable, to do an even bigger difference? Because everyone from different sectors needs to come together if we're going to win this fight.
Yeah, and spread the word. Share this session through your own network and make sure to spread the stories that you have heard here today. And as I said in the beginning, don't look away. If you see something that doesn't feel right, if you hear something that doesn't sound right, speak up. Make your voice heard. And remember, girls' rights have no price. And with that, thank you all for watching us today.
Thank you so much. And now stay tuned and go and refill your cup of coffee, because at 1:30 we're going to have an after talk on our Instagram, on Instagram Live, Child10 Foundation, with me, together with the Swedish Minister of Gender Equality and Children's Rights, Märta Stenevi, to discuss this launch and also to discuss the policies in Sweden and internationally and what the government needs to do to enhance the child rights approach in the work against trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation of children. So join us again at 1:30 on Instagram Live. See you there.